Hey guys, it's Stephen here, back with the second episode of the newly rebranded City Social. It was Blue View last week, but now it's going to be the City Social going forward. It makes a lot of sense. And I've been joined by two wonderful guests to try and help pick me up after that debacle yesterday. I've got Ali Fogg from 9320 as well, and of course, the man behind 9320, Ahsan Naeem. Guys, thank you for joining me. How are you feeling today?
Had better days, to be honest, but I guess we've had worse too. There's worse things happening in the world than a football match.
I
Definitely.
like that angle. I like that angle. We'll take that angle from now on. Let's just talk about coronavirus for the rest of
Yeah,
the video.
it's really
Let's
good
not.
that the football was cancelled yesterday, and like
Yeah, I don't
because the
remember it.
coronavirus, just no football happened at all, isn't it? Yeah.
Cancel the season, play it
Yeah.
again next season. It has to be done. I think it has to be done.
For the benefit of the world, basically.
Think of the children, man. Think of the
Think of the
children
children.
that you know,
They don't need to
like
grow up
this
knowing nothing.
virus, and it's not a good idea that we carry on this football malarkey. We need to stop, have a summer off, and start again.
I'm sure everyone in Merseyside will fully disagree. At least half of it will, anyway. But anyway, like yesterday wasn't good, so we're going to try and dissect that a little bit, and also maybe look forward a little bit to Arsenal game. But I'll start with your initial impressions. Asan, what's your general feeling from that game yesterday?
Rubbish.
Rubbish.
All sorts of rubbish is the honest answer. I felt that the performance from back to front was lackluster at best. Um, I think that when we did our podcast, we've just had a conversation about the team selection and whether the team selection sent a message to the players. I don't even think that's a get out. I don't think that the team selection sent a message to the players because I think that when Sergio Aguero, Raheem Sterling, Bernardo Silva, Ilkay Gundogan, Rodri, these guys are all on the pitch.
Yeah.
That's your that's the majority of your best 11 out on the pitch. So the fact that they played okay up until the United goal, but after United scored, City looked like they couldn't be asked to actually get in behind United. Nobody wanted to take the risk to get in behind United. Everything was so safe. And I'm sure that, that's borne out in all the passing statistics. And I'm sure that statistically, it was a great game for City, except for the fact that football isn't about keeping the ball for 90 minutes. It's about scoring goals.
So why do you think that was? Why do you think there was so little reaction, I guess, to that? Do you think it's an issue of the players just simply having a bad day at the office, or is it kind of a slight wider problem based around what we've had so far this season?
I think maybe it's got a lot to do with, I think, the attack just not being as good as it has been over the last two seasons in particular. I don't think that I don't think we're creating as many chances, and I don't think we're taking the chances that we create. I've not looked up the numbers, but I imagine if you look up the numbers in terms of the conversion rate from chances, I suspect it'll be well down on last season and the season before.
I think that's probably a fair presumption. I mean, it does feel that way. I saw someone pointing out some stats. I can't. It might even be you, Ali. Someone did it on Twitter where they were talking about we only scored something like 8 goals in the last 7 games, something like that. Like, not sure if that's fully correct, but our goals are going down basically. And then obviously you got the problem we're conceding at a rate of 1 a game currently, which is not the kind of form you'd associate with a team that's going to try and win things. We don't tend to concede goals. We shouldn't concede goals, basically. Ali, firstly, hello to the beautiful dog there who's just joined the live stream.
Yeah,
First
you asked
ever
how
dog
we
on
were
there.
feeling. You asked how we were feeling, and he immediately started whimpering and crying. I thought I should get my cuddle. We're all feeling the same, aren't we, mate? Yeah.
First
Oh,
ever dog on this channel, which is an honour. Well, thank you, and I'll get some questions for the little bit we chat in a bit. But yourself, mate, a lot of people have say, there was this element of the result ultimately didn't matter, in inverted commas, because, I mean, the idea being that this won't really reflect on the season's accomplishments in the grander picture of schemes. Do you feel that way, or does it feel a little bit different to you than that?
Well, it matters to me, and it should matter to the players. And I really don't have a lot of time for the argument that any Premier League doesn't matter. Again, doesn't matter, but particularly not a derby. But I think what happened yesterday is it confirmed something I've been fretting about basically all season. And I've said before, I think the reason why we are, whatever it is, 25 points behind Liverpool this year is not because they've got better players or a better team, or it's not even because we've had problems in defence or not scoring enough goals or any of those stats you come out with. What's been happening again and again and again is something goes wrong for us, like we concede a goal or we miss a penalty or just the game takes a bad turn when we've been in control. And rather than pulling ourselves up and yeah, finding the guts and courage and determination to drag something out of a game where we should have been losing, we've folded and we've conceded a goal and immediately turned to crap. And what we've seen from Liverpool all season, and it pains me to pay them any credit, but they haven't been playing that great football. None of their strikers have been in the kind of form that Salah was in a couple of years ago. Yeah. They haven't got a Messi. They haven't got anyone as good as Kevin De Bruyne or quite a few of our players. But what they have got is a determination not to drop points and not to lose games. And when they go behind, they have been just busting a gut to drag a result out of that game. When we've been going behind, we've just been crumbling. And it happened at the Spurs game a few weeks ago. Virtually every time we've dropped points this season, it's been the same story. And I'm fed up of it.
Why do you think that is, Ali, then? Because, I mean, you're right to suggest that that's definitely a problem. When you think about, especially some of the last two title wins, you can think of games where we turned it around. The one that always kind of comes into my head is obviously the Centurion's goal, Gabriel Jesus. I know that was huge, and then obviously Sterling's last minute winner. Those kind of moments,
screamer against Leicester, Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you think is the cause of this? Because it does feel different, doesn't it? It does feel like the team aren't reacting to. I'm personally not sure if this is fair, but I do sense an element of feeling hard done by, or a little bit of kind of pity, or it feels like sometimes the wallowing and feeling hard done by, like a sulky teenager when it doesn't go the way. I'm not sure I'm being a bit emotional because the death of Derby, but it does feel that way sometimes.
I mean, I don't know. It must be psychological. And that has to come to the team spirit. One of the things that was said about Pep by quite a few commentators when he first came here, or in the early days, is that he performs miracles with players for a couple of years and then they begin to burn out. And I went for a long time just point blank refusing to accept or believe that might be the case. I'm now starting to worry if actually maybe there is an element of truth in that, and that actually for players like, look at Bernardo or Sterling or all these absolute world-class players who are capable of producing miracles on demand, and yet again and again and again, the magic has not been there, and they've just been falling short when we needed them most. And maybe it is just maintaining that intensity of concentration and will to win and desire and just all the stuff that goes in between the ears of footballers, at whatever level.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's been tripping us up.
Ahsan, a couple of things there. Go on, Ahsan. Carry, go for it.
I was just going to say that I think that one of the things for me is that, look, I think in Vinny we had a player who, when things didn't go against us or we went behind, you had a player who basically had the attitude to go, right, pull your socks up and let's go. And I think that in Kevin De Bruyne, we have a player who, when that happens, can do that. He does it in a slightly different way because he tends to take the ball and go, I'm going to show you with the football how we lift this. I felt against United, I looked across that pitch and there wasn't a player who I felt has that in them to lift everybody, whether that be through a performance or through just going around and talking to them and saying, right, we need an extra 10% or an extra 15%. I think that the question that you asked about whether it really matters in the greater scheme of things, I think it doesn't. And the thing that really bothers me is that because it's a derby, because it's United away, when they went a goal down, the players should have known this is a derby and we've gone a goal down. We have to now stop behaving like we're, a pretty football team that can control them. And we actually have to be decisive, because I think that's the big difference is when we play like we did yesterday, we're just not decisive. Like you can keep the ball for 70, 80 minutes playing pretty little triangles in the middle of the park, or, you know, Aguero dropping deep and a lovely little layoff to Rodri, a lovely first time pass to Gundo, back out wide to the fullback. But at some point, somebody has to break ranks and actually do something dangerous in behind the United back four. And nobody took responsibility for me, and nobody did that.
How do we? I mean, and it's easy to say how do we solve this, but I guess that's the question, really. Is this something that Guardiola can actually fix for next season? Now, obviously, we've lost Vincent Kompany. Replacing someone of that stature around the team, I'm not sure you can even buy that. You just kind of have to get a play and hope that they become that to an extent. And maybe De Bruyne can become that. But then you said we had two, and now maybe we'll have one. And then Fernandinho obviously influences on the way a little bit because he's now a central defender. So essentially, is this fixable under Guardiola, Ahsan? And that's a dramatic question. So, but I mean that in terms of, do you think he's the kind of person who can bring in this someone of this seniority to help drive the team forward? Because the current generation of captains and leaders, they were all there pre-Guardiola, and Kompany. Even De Bruyne was pre-Guardiola. Then Fernandinho, David Silva, even Aguero's got a bit of seniority. These players are about to move on, apart from De Bruyne, of course. But we're losing a bunch of kind of stalwarts that kind of really do inspire the team and used to terrify other teams as well by just being on the pitch. Can Guardiola rebuild that for next season? Or is it going to be a very different way of going about it?
I don't know. I think that you either rebuild it with character or you rebuild it with quality. And what I mean by that is just, a lot of the adversity that we faced this season and a lot of this sense of heads go down because somebody does something really stupid. Heads go down because, like you said, they feel sorry for themselves. And wait, why are they feeling sorry for themselves? Because they conceded another soft goal. And I think that the vacuum of leadership is being exacerbated by the fact that we're such a good team that gives up such soft goals that you can... Doesn't matter if you play like Barcelona for 80, 85 minutes, if there's 5 minutes within which your back four, individually and collectively, will let the opposition have a free shot at goal. Because eventually that takes its toll in the mentality of the entire team. If you're up the other end of the pitch and you're feeling like we have to score 3 because they're going to let one in at that end, or we have to score 2 at least because they're going to let one in at that end, it's hard. So I don't think that firstly, I think absolutely Guardiola can solve this because he's best coach in the world, and if he can't solve it, nobody can solve it. But beyond that, I think it's a conversation about character or quality, because I think that if you have Laporte in that back four, then his quality makes up for the fact that maybe we haven't got a Vinny or we haven't got a Kevin in the centre of the park. I think that if you can add a top centre half to play next to Laporte, so that actually you've got 2 at that level, imagine the stability that gives to the midfield in front of them. I mean, it's such a... Pep's greatest strengths are his greatest weaknesses, in the sense that the team is built to play in one way, and he's said himself many times that he really feels for his own centre halves because they have to defend with 50 yards behind them, and in front of them oftentimes there's nobody really, and I think that since Fernandinho has moved into defence and you've got Rodri there, he's just not as mobile. He can't do... Fernandinho did the job of 2 players. So now
he spent years learning that as well alongside Yaya, didn't he? So
exactly. And on top of that, so now we've got 2 players because we're beginning to play often with a double pivot, because otherwise Rodri gets exposed. So there's just there's knock-on effects everywhere. And I think that rather than this being some kind of like chronic, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? I think if we had one more centre half who was capable, who was stable, who was consistent, who gave a little bit of confidence to the players in front of him, that'd be enough.
I agree with that. I'm going to take a little bit of a left field turn, though, well, literally, towards the left, and talk about, because this is a request topic, Raheem Sterling. because that is I think this is becoming to me personally. Feel free to correct me, Ali, if you want to, but it feels like it's becoming a bit of an issue. And like I know, obviously, players are very much entitled to slumps in form, but we've got to a point now where a large part of this fan base is kind of scrambling around looking for any incident. Is it the Joe Gomez thing? Is it because of Arteta left? Is it because people are trying to find reasons why Sterling's form seems to have dropped off the cliff so much? Where do you stand on this, Ali? Like, do you think this is something that's naturally going to resolve itself, or is there some kind of wider problem? What do you do with Sterling right now if you're Guardiola?
I think you have to keep playing him. I mean, every game until yesterday, I'd been standing up for Raheem. He'd had the yips in front of goal, which all forward players can get occasionally. You've got a run of bad luck and nerves, and it just won't go in the net. Yesterday, he was actively poor. And I don't know if that's because he had been injured and he's still playing his way back in.
Yeah.
It could be that. I think the Raheem plays very well off number 8, particularly well off David Silva. And Gundogan, I thought, wasn't the problem I had yesterday, but he wasn't feeding Sterling very well. I think there was only 2 or 3 occasions when Sterling had really good quality ball going through that he could go onto. Admittedly, he didn't do the best with them, but by and large, he wasn't being fed very well. And I don't know. I mean, yeah. He's a quality player, and I think we have to keep faith in him. The only way Sterling is going to get back into form is by getting back into form. I doubt there's anything going on in the training pitch, or I doubt there's anything going on in his private life or anywhere else that's behind this. It is just a run of form that the forward players get. And I don't think there's any alternative than to keep the faith and let him play his way out of it. But if there's something like he's missing an Arteta or a coach who really understands him, then maybe that's it. But can I revert just to your previous question?
Yeah, of course.
To Ahsan, because there's something about Guardiola. For 3-4 years, I've been crawling over broken glass to defend Guardiola, and I will not have a bad word said against him. Again, yesterday, when it was obvious that we were going to crap, and I think every City fan that I was watching at home, I wasn't at the game. Everything I saw on social media, everyone was saying, "Why don't we swap Foden and Bernardo? Put Bernardo on the right, let Foden own the middle of the field, because that's what he wants to do and that's what he's so good at." And from 75 minutes, when Mahrez came on and Foden switched into De Bruyne's position, it looked like a different game. I admit it didn't save us, but we looked a different side. We looked like Man City, with Foden playing the De Bruyne role, and we hadn't done before. And I don't know if Bernardo had pulled a seniority card over Foden, saying, if Kevin's not playing, then I'm having that spot. And I don't know if Pep went with that, or if it was just Guardiola being stubborn. But it seemed to me we played about half an hour, 40 minutes of football that was just dismal, and there was an obvious solution, like right there, screaming at all of us, and he just would not take it. And I found that absolutely unfathomable. It's been one of the few managerial decisions I've seen Pep make that I just cannot begin to find any explanation or excuse for. So yeah, we can focus on Raheem's poor form, but I think the issues are deeper than that and wider than that, and it's not just about him. And so I don't want to overly heap too much pressure on Sterling's shoulders, because he's not the root of the problem.
How do you stand basically on the Guardiola decision making there? So, like, obviously, Ali raised a good point there about to me, I thought it was a case of just putting Foden out on the right because that's the way he did so well in the Carabao Cup, and it was a case of repeating it. I'm a little bit disappointed by Bernardo so far. I mean, this season. I think that's not an unpopular opinion. But he feels like another one who's become a bit of a follower as opposed to a leader. When I thought of Bernardo last year, he was always 100%. On the front foot. Last year, he was so aggressive in bringing us forward. I mean, the game that always stands to mind is obviously, I know we went out, but the 4-3 against Spurs at the Etihad, and Bernardo was just sensational that day. Him and De Bruyne were so aggressive, and they were so direct with their approach to the game. And where's that Bernardo gone? Like, I mean, it's worrying that to me that a guy with as much experience as Bernardo's got, and he is really experienced for his age. We've got to bear that in mind, given what he's accomplished so far in the game. that he looked like a poor option than Foden. And that's not to disrespect Foden's ability, because Foden's a kid, and he shouldn't have been a more reliable option in the centre, in my humble opinion, than Bernardo. What do you take on that, Ahsan?
I think Ali's right, and I think that to a greater or lesser extent you're right as well. I thought that Bernardo was really poor first half yesterday. I thought that his lack of awareness, kind of peripheral vision, players around him, where he's collecting the ball, he looked like a winger playing as a centre midfield player yesterday, and it's rare that I've seen him put in performances like that from centre mid. The one thing I would say is he's been, again, I think that, Pep moves players around and he likes versatile players and he enjoys moving players around. And I think that he likes to challenge players. But I imagine a lot of players go, if you want the best out of me, why don't you play me in the same position for 4 or 5 games on the bounce? And I think that for a player like Bernardo, unless I'm mistaken, that's the first time he's been asked to play in centre midfield on the right-hand side. I feel as though every other time this season that he's popped up in that position, it's on the left. So that was a change. I completely agree with Ali. 15 minutes in, I'm going put Bernardo on the right and put Foden in the middle, because Bernardo doesn't look like a number 8 and Foden doesn't look like a winger right now. So just put them in their natural positions and maybe they'll be okay. We'll go back to the Raz thing as well. I think that Pep is such a funny guy sometimes, that I've just said this thing about why don't you consistently play players in a position and give them a chance. And then there's Raheem Sterling, who he dogmatically plays on the left-hand side of a front three without ever moving him to the right.
I miss him on the right, man, so much.
Well, it's, when you're in a game, this is a criticism I have of Pep. His in-game management at times is slow for me. For me, he tends to want to give his original plan and his original players as long as is humanly possible. Now, I imagine that in 90% of the cases, that's fair enough. But there are moments like yesterday where it's obvious enough at half-time that you're probably going to have to do something, that you may as well just do it. And I think that Raz yesterday, I mean, give him a chance against Luke Shaw and Williams, And then, so let me ask you both a question then. If Sterling is being dogmatically played on the left whilst everybody else is being,
moved about,
shunted everywhere, does that suggest to you that he literally trusts nobody on the left-hand side, that he's looking at his composite of players and he's going, well, I play Raheem there or I play Gabby there? And Gabby's definitely not a left winger. He's done well in moments against Real Madrid as a defensive winger. He was incredible. But you ask yourself, in games against low blocks where you're coming up against 10 on the edge of the area, what will Gabby do that Raz won't do? Because for me, he's another right-footed player coming in off the left. If he's not going to cannon it off the first defender, he's going to cannon it off the second defender. So it's... I don't know, I think the Leroy injury
it's been bad, hasn't it?
It's real bad. In every attacking performance that has looked a bit off, you immediately look at the bench and go, there's not really anything there that'll turn it.
You think about, with Sterling and Sane. I mean, I do recall every now and then, even if it's just for 5 minutes, the players switching over sides. It did happen. It feels like that doesn't really happen anymore with our wide players. And even if it's just, I mean, I know it would probably nullify Mars a little bit if it went over on the left, but even if it's just to give Sterling a chance to be on the right for 5 minutes, I feel like sometimes it's probably worth a go. And I do wonder, you're right, it is very strange given how much you see players rotating around. Sterling simply just doesn't get the chance to do that. It's like he's kind of stuck out there regardless of what he does, which is a really interesting one.
I think it's a minutes thing as well. I think that his form, in my opinion, is on some level connected to the amount of football he's had in his legs over the last 2.5 years with very little respite. And I think that this season, for a lot of our players, there should have been a moment in the summer where they looked at it and they said, look, we cannot ask certain players to go to the well once more over 50 games, over a 55-game season. I think there needs to be a fresh impetus brought into the squad. And it's, for me, that's the problems began last summer. I've said this a few times now, and it's not hindsight management because I know a lot of people were saying it in the summer. We need another centre half. We probably need to refresh the attack, and definitely feels like that now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it definitely does. I'm going to move forward now to basically just very quickly for the finals question about Arsenal, because obviously we've got all the hindsight of about what happened yesterday. And I want to know basically from both of you what you want to see from Arsenal. I mean that I guess in a broad sense in terms of reaction from the players, all that kind of stuff. But also, is there anyone you want to see in certain positions or anything like that? Is there an approach to the game you want to see different from the team? I know it's quite a broad question, Ali, but is there anything you want from Guardiola or the team, anything up against the Arsenal game?
I expect them to come out and be a completely different team, to be honest. I mean,
is it literally or emotionally?
Yeah, well, almost literally. I mean, I presume Kevin will be.
11 new players, please.
Does anyone know what's going on with Kevin's shoulder?
He was still in pain yesterday, so I think there's no chance that he plays tomorrow, and I think it's unlikely that he gets near the weekend team either because.
Don't say that, mate.
It is what it is.
I find that a hard one to take because a shoulder injury, if it's pain, it's not like you're likely to aggravate a shoulder injury. I would have thought playing. So, I don't know. Maybe it's more serious than the minor medical releases we've had. I don't know.
Well, I think it's a minor major.
If Kevin isn't there, I mean, I guess David Silva will come back and play again. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Pep ends up playing David and Gundogan as the eights, which I won't be entirely happy about. But I think it would be a hell of an imposition to ask Foden to go in and play as the eight in the De Bruyne role for a third game in a row, particularly wherever it goes badly. It's going to reflect, people will pick it up with him, however unfair that might be. So I'm guessing Foden probably won't start on Wednesday. If Kevin's not there, I think it'll be De Bruyne and Silva. And I'm worried. I'm not going to lie. I've been watching Arsenal for a while, and I think of all the kind of teams currently in the top 8 to 10, they're the one that I think have got the ability and the bones to put together a really good winning run. And Arteta obviously knows our players better than anyone and may well come up with a more troubling strategy than most other managers would. We could go out and win 4-0. Of course we could, because we're City and we're more than capable of that. But I'm really not feeling good about it at the moment. And particularly because going back to the psychology of it, I can't help wondering if all of our players have still got like an eye and a half on the second leg against Real. And the league games are just kind of a bit of an inconvenience at the moment.
I don't think it's acceptable, though,
and it's not acceptable, and I won't have it. But yeah, and I'm sure it's not conscious. They're not, deliberately choosing to think that way. But in the way that the human body just kind of like builds up energy for the big occasion, and you kind of conserve it when you don't really absolutely need it. I kind of feel they might be a bit short of adrenaline. The only thing is, I guess they'll be adequately stung after Sunday that might give them just enough impetus to carry them through. But it's not a game I'm going into feeling great. On the other hand, it is obviously the remedy to our despair and depression and all the rest of it. We go out and bang Arsenal. People all feel fine again. So yeah, bring it on.
Ahsan, what's your feelings about the game?
I mean, I think that I'd like to see some type of 4-4-2 with Aguero and Jesus. I think I'd like to see Sterling on the right. I think I'd like to see Mahrez or Bernardo or Foden on the left. I don't really mind, but I think I'd like to see Jesus and Aguero central in a 4-4-2.
What's your thinking behind that? Is there any particular reason or?
I think we have to begin to find form for the attacking players. I really do. And I think that we've tried many different positions and permutations. The one that I don't remember seeing this season is a 4-4-2 with Aguero and Jesus with a right-footed player on. Play Cancelo as the right winger if you don't want to play Sterling. If you're desperate to play Sterling on the left, play Walker and play Cancelo in front. I feel as though it would be interesting to try something like that. I think Gabby and Aguero centrally in a 4-4-2, I think naturally they could actually complement each other really well, because I think Con likes to play off the shoulder of the last defender and Gabby likes to drop deep. So
Yeah.
there's, I mean, again, like, chances of me predicting something that Guardiola actually does.
Who knows?
Yeah,
Who knows?
you know what I mean? It's just you asked me what would I like, and
Yes, that's fine.
that's where my head.
Are you talking about dropping Rodri then, Ahsan?
You know, I don't think the balance in midfield has been right a lot this season, but I don't think that you can drop Rodri, because I don't think that that's really the solution unless you want to go back to putting Fernandinho there. But there's no point in predicting something that Guardiola's already come out and said simply will not happen this season.
Yeah.
So
who would be the middle of your midfield four? The middle two?
So the way I look at it, you either play, it'll be Gundo and Rodri, and the reason it'll be Gundo and Rodri is
I'd say that
actually
too.
I want Sterling on the right, and I'm okay with Mahrez, Bernardo, or Foden on the left. In fact, if you want to err on the side of caution, you can play Bernardo because he can tuck inside and become a third midfielder if he really needs to be, or Foden, who can do the same job in terms of tucking inside and becoming a third midfielder. I think for Mahrez, asking him to be a out wide left-footed winger is probably not going to work. But again, if Mendy's fit and they want to play Mendy, then you can do that. Mendy can be high and wide on the left, and whoever the left-sided midfielder is, whether it's Bernardo or it's Foden, they can tuck inside. But I'd like to see Aguero and Jesus again, to be honest with you, because I think if I were pointing fingers at form, I'd be pointing at Sterling, Mahrez, and Bernardo, and I'd be going, yeah, none of you three are inspiring match-winning performances in me right now. I don't look at any of the three of them and go, they're going to win us the game against Madrid. I look at Aguero and Jesus and I go, they've both shown moments in the last 4 weeks that make me think, okay, they could do something magical.
And that's totally fair, I reckon. I'm going to wrap it up there because this is going to take about 4 years to export on my dying laptop. But it's been really good. I know it's been a bit of a negative kind of video in terms of the crisis after a Derby Day defeat, but I'm sure we'll be back. I want to say a big thank you to Ali and Ahsan for being absolute heroes. Go and check out the 9320 pod, of course, and I'll put a link to these guys' Twitter in the top comment below. Thank you guys for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Ali, as well, to your wonderful little dog who's disappeared from there, but has been a start. Don't forget, subscribe, like, comment, all that kind of stuff, and I'll be back next week with some more guests on the City Social in a bit.